The Galactic Council convenes in arrogance, expecting Earth to bow after issuing an ultimatum. But humanity's silence masks something ancient and terrifying. The stage is set, and the stars will burn before they kneel. You will surrender your sovereignty or face extinction. The voice belonged to Archon Zivar, High Emissary of the Galactic Council, his serpentine coils coiled around the council dais like a smug crown. His eyes flicked upward, cold, glinting, toward the one seat in the chamber that remained empty. Earth's location, the Celestial Accord Chamber, Council Prime Ring Audience, 317 galactic delegates, 19 royal species, 600 trillion citizens watching. Emotional temperature, ice, smug. The vote was already cast before Earth entered. The silence of the chamber was deafening, broken only by the ambient hum of translation drones and atmospheric regulators. Light flickered from the vaulted dome above, an artificial recreation of the galactic map. Every system colored in, claimed by races far older than Earth. And now they wanted to color in Earth too. The Cridari diplomat, crystalline and beautiful, clicked its mandibles. They were warned. Humanity continues to violate the expansion accord. Their weapons are unregistered, their growth unchecked. We gave them time, purred the Varnith matron, tendrils twitching. They refused integration. What's left but fire? The chamber nodded in agreement. So sure, so calm, so wrong. Back on Earth, deep beneath the Odin crater military bastion, no one flinched. Commander Elias Vaughn watched the broadcast from a steel room without windows. He didn't blink. He didn't move. He simply stood, hands clasped behind his back, listening as the Council dared to decide the fate of Earth. Without Earth. Beside him, AI Sentinel Valkyrie flickered to life, her voice laced with restrained wrath. They believe they've seen what we are, Elias murmured. They've only seen our orbitals, our embassies. They've never seen us. The feed continued. On screen, the Council pressed forward with their arrogance. In accordance with Galactic Accord Section 17C, declared Archon Zivar, Earth is now under conditional compliance. They will disband all non-sanctioned militaries, surrender orbital defense platforms, and relinquish their AI assets. Failure to comply will be met with tactical vaporization of their home world. He paused for effect. Then he smiled. We await their answer. Back in the chamber, the empty Earth seat flickered, static, then signal. Then one human appeared. Woman. She stood tall, pale-faced, black uniform stitched with no insignia, only a blood-red line across the chest. No introduction, no bow, no apology. She simply placed a metal cube on the dais and stepped back. It clicked open, projected a hologram of New Berlin, Earth's capital, burning not from alien weapons, from humanity's own war drills. Children evacuated in under 6 seconds. Drones neutralizing simulated nukes mid-flight. Civilian bunkers sealed in 20 seconds flat, and then a nuclear strike launched on their own soil. The city disappeared. The council chamber gasped. What is this madness? Hissed the Cridari. The woman spoke. Calm, ice, final. That was a test. A silence swept through the chamber like a blade, and then she added, this is not surrender. This is your last invitation to leave our skies. The Cridari delegate clicked furiously. This is not protocol. Elias's voice echoed through the cube next. Protocol ended the day you called us lesser. You were wrong. The cube ejected. A final line of code into the chamber's master channel. A countdown. Siun, ziun, shun. 1 minute. The council scrambled, demanding answers. Where is the signal directed? Who authorized this? What kind of... The human woman turned to leave. As she walked from the podium, she spoke one final line, without looking back. You should have asked what was buried under Mars. Then, the sky above Council. Prime fractured Earth's Tartarus-class dreadnought, dropped from slipspace like a god's fist, black as singularity. Silent as death. Not one ship, not 10. 700, each bearing Earth's forgotten crest, a lion crowned in ash, its eyes burning red. The chamber shook. The countdown hit 0. Nothing happened except fear. Real, ancient, primal fear. Archon Zivar whispered, "What have we done?" As Earth's fleet arrives above Council Prime, panic spreads among the elite. But back on Earth, deeper strategies unfold. Humanity doesn't just want survival. They want the galaxy to remember this moment forever. Full cinematic chapter content. The dreadnoughts did not speak. They simply hovered. 700 black leviathans blotting out stars above the council ring, casting shadows over civilizations that once mocked Earth's name. No lights blinked. No weapons glowed, just a quiet presence, and the entire galaxy knew. Humanity had arrived. Inside Council Prime, chaos ignited like dry oil. Emergency protocols were activated. Defense satellites warmed up. Thousands of guards mobilized in the plaza. Below, diplomats ran through marble corridors, voices shrill with disbelief. Where did they come from? There was no warp signature. Why didn't the surveillance grid detect them? Because it wasn't a fleet, it was a warning. At the center of the chamber, Archon Zivar's hands trembled. This is an act of war. The human cube, still pulsed on the dais, its countdown now replaced by a looping message. You asked for surrender, we offer memory. This is what it looks like when Earth remembers. On the other side of the galaxy, in a bunker 5 kilometers below the African Plateau, Commander Elias Vaughn stood over the war table of the Sol Corps Command. Beside him stood Earth's high strategist, Una Armitage, cold-eyed, born during the siege of Europa. She watched the feed of Council Prime in silence. "You didn't let them respond," Elias murmured. Una shook her head. "They already did. Every insult, every embargo, every council seat they denied us. Every time they pretended we were children playing with stars." She tapped the holomap. A massive simulation burst into motion. Thousands of systems tracked, hundreds of council linked. Military installations illuminated in red. "They forgot we are the descendants of war," she said softly. "Our diplomacy was patience, our silence was mercy." This, she zoomed in on the 700-strong armada above Council Prime, is memory. Up in orbit, inside the flagship ESV Archangel, Admiral Ren Kor sat alone in the throne room. Bridge, an old Earth design meant to make commanders feel like kings. He didn't look at the stars. He watched the Council's terror on encrypted streams. "Still no hostile response," his lieutenant said. "They're too scared," Ren replied. "They know we could burn that planet in 30 seconds. "Orders, sir?" Ren didn't answer immediately. Instead, he pulled out a small bronze coin from his jacket pocket, scarred and faded. One side read, "Europa burned, but we survived the other side. Remember why we roar." He clenched it tightly. "Put all forward batteries on low pulse. We show presence, not aggression." "Yes, Admiral," and transmit a message to the Council. He handed over a data spike. "Play it once, then wipe it." Back in the council chamber, the lights dimmed. Then a voice filled the air, not through speakers, but through every implant, every AI relay, every node of thought tech within range. "This is Admiral Ren Kor of the Earth Defense Armada. You demanded surrender. You issued threats. You forgot we don't fear extinction. We were born inside it." The voice paused. "You thought we were quiet because we were weak. We were quiet because we were preparing." Delegates turned pale. Some collapsed. Some fled. Zivar couldn't move. "You looked into the dark between stars and thought you ruled it. You never imagined we were the dark." The feed ended. The cube disintegrated. Above Council Prime, the dreadnoughts shifted, not forward, not to attack, but to align. All 700 ships moved in synchronized orbit, rotating slowly into a spiral pattern around the capital. The formation was ancient, drawn from one of Earth's earliest martial cultures, a phalanx halo, a symbol used only once before in recorded history, during the last stand at Europa, when Earth forces held back 5 alien factions for 19 minutes, long enough to evacuate 8 million civilians. Now, it signified one thing: we are watching. Your next move decides your fate. Back on Earth, civilians didn't cheer, they didn't party, they watched in hushed awe. In Paris, old veterans gathered at the Monument of Lost Colonies. In New Lagos, schoolchildren stopped class to watch the feed. A little girl whispered, "They finally see us." In New Kyoto, people lit lanterns, not in celebration, but in remembrance. Humanity wasn't here for conquest, they were here for clarity. The Kridari diplomats screamed into the chamber's defense. Console calling for immediate orbital defense measures. The system denied the request. Reason: Earth had already rerouted the satellite control relays. And then, without firing a shot, the defense grid went offline. Every light, every drone, every turret, dead. Silence again. Council Speaker Maharek stood from her throne, shaking. "This is impossible. You were primitives a century ago." A new voice echoed in the room. It wasn't Earth's. It was from one of the Council's own. Thalos. Teren, an elder member of the Mithari hive mind. He stood slowly, quietly. "I warned you," he said. "I told you Earth was not to be cornered." Maharek turned to him. "You knew?" Thalos nodded. "They offered peace. We gave them insult. Now we reap silence." In the distance, in the blackness of Council Prime's sky, a single beam of blue light pierced from one Earth dreadnought. It didn't hit the surface, it struck the moon above it. The beam carved 7 letters into the rock's crust, searing into the stone. Remember, the message could be seen across the planet. It would remain there forever. And in that moment, across the galaxy, every species whispered the same phrase, some with fear, some with wonder, all with truth. Humanity has returned. The galaxy stares in disbelief. On council worlds, protests erupt. In hidden bunkers, plans crumble. But deep beneath Earth's surface, the next phase begins. Because this was never about revenge. It was about reminding the galaxy who humanity became when they were cast aside. Full cinematic chapter. Content. In the spire cities of Varn, crystal towers began to tremble, not from bombs, but from questions. Children with data feeds in their eyes stared at the image etched into Council Prime's moon. Remember, parents tried to explain, but their voices cracked. For centuries, they had taught that humans were wild, volatile, contained. But now Earth had brought 700 warships into orbit without warning, disabled the galaxy's most secure defense grid, and written a word in fire across the sky. No one could explain that, because no one had ever seen it before. Not even the Mithari Elders' Council worlds, spun in chaos. On Viran 4, anti-council riots exploded. On Chelax, news anchors stammered in disbelief, replaying the silent footage over and over, 700 ships moving like a single thought. Why didn't we know they had this? Where did they build all of this? How did they get past every surveillance net? Only one answer echoed through every broadcast, whispered in every language. Earth remembered. But it wasn't over. Not even close. Beneath Earth's crust, far below classified installations, far below even the Artemis Ring command, a vault opened for the first time in 63 years. Una Armitage entered without guards. The chamber was sealed, in plasma-fold steel. Walls buzzed with ionized particles. At its center floated a sphere, black, pulsing, alive, the archive of breach. Here lay every betrayal humanity ever endured, not just documents, memories, pain stored in code, crimes recited. In ghosted audio, the bombing of Kellic Station, the poisoning of Mars Terra. 4. The Council's silence when the Grasni enslaved an entire Earth colony, And at the end of it all, a mirror. The mirror showed Earth's face, not what it looked like, what it became. A voice filled the chamber. Old, deep, the kind of voice that made history shiver. Are we activating it? Una nodded. They need to remember. Meanwhile, in a dark nebula outside regulated space, a council-aligned war clan known as the Vascari watched the footage with scorn. Captain Ultrax clicked his jaw. 700 ships. Flashy, but cowardly. They haven't fired a shot. His mate growled. Then we strike first. Yes, gather the Legion. We'll make Earth bleed and show the Council they're still soft. They jumped to Sol in 3 hours, 8 war cruisers. Vascari pride, black hulls and bone-carved cannons. They expected a brief clash, a chance to kill a few humans before Earth even noticed. What they got was Vigil 7. As the Vascari entered Sol orbit, only one ship greeted them. Not a fleet, not a formation. A single destroyer, small, sleek, silent. It hailed them. This is Vigil 7. Identify yourselves. Ultrax laughed. I am Captain Ultrax of the Vascari Blood Pact. We do not answer to lesser species. Stand down or be torn apart. Silence. Then the reply came. You are in Earth space. Your tone is noted. Your coordinates are marked. You have 10 seconds to evacuate. 9, 8, 7. Ultrax bellowed. Fire! Missiles launched. They never reached the target because at 6, Vigil 7 disappeared, and at 4, 7 orbital javelin stations came online. Kinetic rods, long as skyscrapers, fired from Earth's lunar vault. The Vascari fleet didn't. You burn, it imploded. No energy weapons, no glory, just silence and impact. The wreckage never touched Earth's soil. Hours later, Earth's message to the Council was simple. You are not at war. We are not invaders. But every trespass will be answered with history, and we never forget history. At the Galactic War College on Draxus, cadets stood frozen as the footage played. Instructor Valtaran paused the screen. You see what they did? He asked. They fought without engaging? One cadet said. No, Valtaran replied. They told a story. They made every world watch. That's worse than war. He turned to the class. Never provoke a race that turns memory into weaponry. Back on Earth, Elias Vaughn sat before a hologram of the lost colonies, the ones Earth abandoned when the Council choked trade and closed warp lanes. He stared at the names. Seraphis, Delphi, Kepler's Wake. Recall all surviving colonies, he ordered. Tell them Earth didn't forget them. The stars are open again. A junior officer frowned. They'll think we're retaliating. Elias looked up, calm and cold. We're not. We're returning. In the deepest parts of Council Prime, Archon Zivar met secretly with the Mathari elder Thalos Teren. You knew this was coming, Zivar accused. Thalos's crystalline eyes shimmered. We thought they would break. Instead, they sharpened, Zivar hissed. They're destabilizing everything. They're restoring balance, Thalos said. We made Earth kneel for a century. Now they stand, and they have a long memory. Zivar slammed a clawed hand on the table. Then we must act. Before they claim everything, Thalos nodded. Yes, but ask yourself, Archon, are you preparing to destroy them or to survive them? Because across the stars, something ancient was awakening, not just Earth. Fear, real, earned, justified fear, the kind that comes only when you realize you didn't just provoke a species. You provoked a civilization that built vengeance into culture, and they were only getting started. As the Council scrambles to regain control, Earth begins reclaiming what was lost, starting with a forgotten colony. But what they find there proves humanity didn't just survive in exile, it evolved. And the galaxy isn't ready for what rises next. Full cinematic chapter content. The Kepler's Wake relay flickered online for the first time in 83 years. Static. Then a voice, raspy, slow. Is this Earth? Una Armitage stared at the console. Her hands trembled just slightly. Around her, analysts fell silent. The voice repeated, "Is this Earth Command? Please, say something." She leaned forward. "This is Earth Command, we hear you." A pause, then the voice broke into a sob. "You came back." Kepler's Wake was humanity's first long-range colony outside Council-regulated zones. They left with promises, with hope, with Earth's flag stitched onto every collar. Then the Council blockaded Earth, cut its colonies off, supplies vanished, communication died, then silence. Everyone assumed Kepler was lost. But now, it was alive, and Earth was coming. The ESV Gravemind exited warp just outside the Kepler system, the first to arrive. Captain Anya Giro watched through the bridge viewport. "Bring up long-range visuals!" The screen buzzed, then cleared. There it was, Kepler 3, scarred, storm-ravaged, but rotating strong. Cities still powered, heat signatures blooming in the thousands, but something else emerged from the shadow of the planet. Ships, not Earth-made, not Council-grade, something else. They looked cobbled together. Jagged hulls, plasma sails, cannons mounted sideways. Survival-born, the lead ship hailed them. "This is the Keplerian Vanguard. Identify yourselves or be fired upon." Captain Giro blinked. "That's our colony?" The comm buzzed again. "This is our sky. Say your name or die in silence." Anya smiled. "This is Earth." There was no reply, just breathing, ragged, real, then screaming, joyful, broken, unbelievable. "Earth lives, Earth lives." They came back. On the bridge, half the crew cried, the other half saluted. When the first shuttle descended to Kepler's surface, it found a civilization reborn in wrath and wilderness, cities carved into volcanic cliffs, children trained with rifles by age 6, AI libraries hidden beneath temples, guarded by monks in exosuits. Kepler didn't just survive, they adapted. They fought off Grozny slavers, survived 3 climate collapses, fended off Council Black Ops extermination, and they had never forgotten who abandoned them, but they never burned Earth's flag. They had worshipped it, as legend, as memory, as promise. High Priestess Mara, leader of Kepler's resistance, scarred. By 40 years of war, met Admiral Kor on the Blackstone steps of the Great Vault. She didn't kneel, she didn't bow. She offered a single sentence. "What took you so long?" Ren answered, "We were sharpening." Back on Council Prime, panic deepened. The footage of Kepler's return hit every system in the galaxy. A single headline trended across every feed. "They found the lost." Mahrek, the council speaker, slammed her data scepter onto the conference table. "They're reactivating rogue colonies. That violates the Sovereign Isolation Accord." The Kridari diplomat spat. "The accord died when they etched a warning onto our moon." Mahrek pointed toward a projection of Kepler's atmosphere. "Do you see this? A planet that should have collapsed, defended by scavenger fleets, running on chaos. And now Earth is handing them tech, restoring link-ups, uploading archives." Archon Zivar hissed, "They are not reclaiming, they are unifying." And they were. Una Armitage stood before the Unified Memory Array, an ancient Earth vault activated only during global crisis. Now she was connecting every forgotten thread, old colony signals, abandoned AI prototypes, messages from families separated by silence for generations. She pressed a sequence into the console, 1,000 lost outposts, Seraphis, Callisto Reach, Anthium, even the enigmatic Xerxes Drift, all blinked alive. She watched as green light spread across the star map like veins. Reigniting in a long-dead god, Elias Vaughn entered. "It's happening," he said quietly. Una didn't look away. "We're not just fighting back, we're becoming whole." Meanwhile, on the edge of civilized space, the Methari elder Thalos Teren made contact with an ancient ally, the Salkari Mind Kin. They were neutral for millennia. Watchers, observers. Now, Thalos sent them the footage of Kepler's rebirth. He added only 5 words. "It begins where we end." The Salkari replied, "We warned the galaxy. Now it remembers too late." In the hallowed halls of the Galactic War Tribunal, panicked generals reviewed Earth's activation cycles. One screen showed a facility on Earth melting raw asteroid ore into battlecruiser plating. Another showed children in Earth academies being trained in fleet coordination from age 5. Another showed Keplerian war veterans swearing oaths under a human flag, burned but whole. Everywhere they were scattered, a Vital officer muttered. They planted fire instead of flowers. "They weren't waiting," said the Duran general beside him. "They were forging." Back on Earth, Una walked through the Hall of Unforgiven, a vault of war relics, not of enemies, but of betrayals, letters from dying colonies, helmets from sabotaged peace missions, the splintered hull of the Helios Ark, destroyed when the Council claimed it violated migration laws. At the end of the hall, a simple display, a paper note, yellowed by time, written in blood, "Never beg again." In that moment, the Earth Council released a message. It wasn't long, no music, no ceremony, just Elias Vaughn standing beneath Earth's night sky, stars above, ashes below. "We are not at war, but we will not bend. We came to remind you who we are. Now remember what that means." He stepped aside. Behind him, a wall lit up, every name of every lost colony, glowing, alive, and far across the stars. In the deepest seat of Council power, a vote was cast. Not to attack, not to negotiate, but to survive. Because even in all their arrogance, the galaxy now understood. This wasn't vengeance, it was gravity, and Earth was the center again. Earth's quiet fury takes form. As more lost colonies rejoin, the Council fears what comes next. But they've made one critical mistake. They assumed Earth had already shown its strength. They haven't seen what still sleeps beneath the crust, and the weapons forged not for war, but for extinction. Full cinematic chapter, content. The broadcast lasted exactly 48 seconds. No faces, no threats, just a rotating schematic. Project Razorwell. It showed a machine, if you could call it that. A planetary-scale construct hidden under Earth's crust, dormant since the fall of Europa. A ring of mobile fortress segments, fused to tectonic plates powered by core heat and neural swarm AI. Its purpose? Unknown. Its size? Larger than Mars. The feed ended with one message. "This is what we buried, what we swore never to awaken, until now." Across Council worlds, screams echoed in every intelligence chamber. The Mathari confirmed it wasn't a bluff. The Cridari accused their own spies of treason. The Duran refused to believe it until seismic readings confirmed massive crustal shifts across Earth's northern hemisphere. The galaxy had expected ships. It hadn't expected a continent that could move. High above Earth, in geosynchronous orbit, the ESV Herald of Ember initiated visual feed capture. The clouds parted. Beneath them, tectonic armor plates began to rise from the oceans, black slabs taller than mountain ranges. Humming with ancient reactors, crowds across Earth gathered in silence. They had heard stories, old stories, the kind spoken only in bunkers and backlines. Now it was real. Now the world itself was standing. Commander Elias Vaughn stood atop the Odin, Bastion helipad. Beside him was Dr. Mikhail Sarin, architect of Razorwell, believed to be long dead. Sarin's face was weathered by radiation, his eyes sunken by neural interface burnout. But he smiled, slowly. "You told me we'd never use it," Elias said. "We also thought they'd never burn the colonies," Sarin replied. "This isn't a weapon. It's memory, cast in steel." Elias looked to the horizon as the sky. He cracked with thunder, then let them remember. Meanwhile, on Council Prime, Zivar was no longer calm. His coils trembled, his speech slurred. "They've activated a planetary defense AI built before first contact. Do you understand what this means? They've had this beneath their soil all along. Thalos Teren was silent. Zavar snapped, "Why aren't you afraid?" The Mithari elder finally spoke. "Because fear is a currency, and Earth has started printing it. In orbit above Kepler-3, Earth's fleet doubled. Now joined by Keplerian-built destroyers, sleek hybrid machines using human AI cores and colony-forged armor." Commander Mara of Kepler addressed her war council. "Earth didn't just return," she said. "They brought every wound with them, and wounds become weapons." Her generals nodded. She raised a clenched fist. "We do not fight for dominance. We fight for the right to never be silenced again." On the edge of explored space, a long-forgotten listening post blinked online. It detected something, not from Earth, from the drift. The Xerxes colonies, once believed extinct, answered the memory array signal. Their transmission? No words, just an image, a council warship, stripped to bone, drifting in pieces, tagged with a symbol, an old Earth one, the crossed teeth of the Ghost Core. Una Armitage stared at the image in silence. The Ghost Core were never real, or so they said. An elite division trained to disappear into dead systems, sabotage enemy command from inside, and erase themselves from history. Project Black Spine. She turned to Elias. "They made it." "They survived," he replied. "No," she whispered. "They thrived." Across the galaxy, council factions broke into splinters. Some advocated immediate ceasefire, others called for full planetary bombardment of Earth. One group, the Varnith, sovereigns, secretly sent envoys to beg for alliance. But Earth didn't answer. They watched. They let the panic spread, because power didn't come from violence now. It came from what humanity chose not to do. And then, as if to break the silence, with poetry, Earth activated Voice Signal 13, a protocol never used in public comms. A message written after the siege of Mars, encoded in music, broadcast across all council airwaves. The lyrics? A child's lullaby. "If they strike us in the stars, we'll rise from every scar. You forgot we made the dark. Now, the dark knows who you are." On Viran 4, a child heard the song and began to cry, not from fear, but from something older, understanding. The War Council fractured. Speaker Maharek resigned. Half the fleet command defected to neutral space. Only Zavar remained defiant. He stood before the Galactic holonet and growled, "You threaten galactic peace with your silence. You walk among stars as if they belong to you. If Earth wants war, then let the sky burn." And Earth finally responded. In a live transmission, Una Armitage stepped into the frame. She stood beneath a rising steel mountain, the shoulder plate of Razorwell now towering into the sky. Behind her, wind screamed and metal groaned as the machine awakened. Her voice was calm, terrifyingly calm. "We didn't ask for peace, we asked to be left alone." The camera panned upward. Razorwell's core thrusters ignited. A mountain lifted from the Earth. It hovered, moved, looked skyward. "City-sized weapon awake and Una finished. You demand surrender. We offer memory, one final time." The screen went black. Far across the galaxy, in a temple built on logic and fear, an ancient AI made a single declaration. For the first time in recorded history, the center of power is no longer the Council. It is Earth. The Council demands proof that Earth's threats are real. One arrogant world volunteers to test humanity's resolve. What follows is not war, it is demonstration. Earth doesn't just respond, they write a new law across the stars. Full cinematic chapter. Content. The Vascari homeworld Threxos was known for two things: relentless warrior culture, their refusal to kneel to anyone, including the Council. Their warlords laughed at Earth's displays, ships in orbit, songs over signal bands, old weapons waking from sleep. To them, it was theater. So they made an offer on the galactic feed. If Earth is serious, let them come. Here, let them try. It was meant as mockery. It became prophecy. Una Armitage watched the feed in silence. Elias Vaughan stood beside her. "They just volunteered," he said. She nodded. "Mark it." He tapped the hollow table. A red dot appeared over Threxus, underneath one word: selected. Hours later, the ESV Ash Rain entered warp. It wasn't the biggest ship in Earth's arsenal, it wasn't the newest, but it carried something the Council had never seen before. Protocol, Oathfire, a countermeasure originally designed for planetary cleansing in the event of human extinction. Built by the Europa survivors. Tested on uninhabited moons. Never used until now. The Council screamed. "This is unauthorized military aggression. Earth has no jurisdiction." But no one moved to stop the ash rain because they knew they wanted to see what would happen. Threxos. Prepared, 50 orbital platforms activated, atmospheric cannons primed, a fleet of 300 warships gathered in formation. Warlord Gracker of the Ironhold laughed before his troops. "They send one ship. One. This is insult, not battle," he raised. His fusion axe. "When Earth arrives, let the sky be red." And then Earth arrived. The ash rain exited warp. Slowly, like a god stretching. It didn't open comms, didn't issue threats. It simply released a single satellite into orbit. Small, unarmed. It activated instantly and broadcast to every system within 12 parsecs. This is Earth's answer. Stand clear of Threxus orbit. This is not an invasion. This is a demonstration. The Council watched in frozen horror. Their feeds, their AI translators, their military uplinks, all overtaken by one view, a planetary map of Threxus, and a countdown, Zato 10, Chun 10. Minutes on Threxos, panic spread, but Gracker remained firm. "It's bluff, all bark, no bite, hold position." At 0050, the ash rain deployed the arc spine, a needle-shaped object kilometers long, shimmering with antimatter threaded carbon. It didn't fire. It fell, straight into the upper atmosphere of Threxos, and then it detonated in silence. No explosion, no light, just a pulse, invisible, quiet, and utterly final. Within 4 seconds, every ship in orbit powered down. All AI cores crashed. Fusion reactors across the planet went dead. Gravity plating on stations inverted. Threxos went dark. And then it began to rain. But it wasn't water. It was coded ash. Nanoparticulates encoded with Earth's warning. Each flake landed softly, slowly, on armor, on cities, on command halls. When scanned, each ash particle displayed a single line of text. "Next time, we won't knock." Back on Earth, the demonstration ended. No casualties, no invasion, just proof. Proof that Earth could silence a planet without firing a single shot. The galactic reaction was immediate. The Council of 300 collapsed. 8 founding species pulled their funding. Dozens of systems declared neutrality, and every fleet across the spiral arm issued the same internal directive. Do not engage with Earth without full planetary authorization. Atop the Council spire, only Thalos Terren remained. He watched the ash fall on Threxos through galactic satellite feeds. He closed his crystalline eyes, then turned to his personal scribe. "Write a new law." "What law, Elder?" Thalos opened his eyes. "Do not ask Earth for mercy, ask Earth for memory, and pray you deserve it." Meanwhile, on Kepler 3, Earth forces worked with the Vanguard to restore Stargate tech. Commander Mara watched as the final crystal relay connected. In moments, it would allow jump travel between Earth and the outer rim colonies. Again, after nearly a century, she turned to her chief engineer. "Do you realize what this means?" He nodded. "We're not just united, we're interlinked." In the hidden valleys of old Africa, beneath the crustal rise of Razorwell, Una Armitage walked through the Wall of Names, a sacred monument etched with every Earth colony lost. To silence, sabotage, or sanction, she placed her palm on a new engraving, Threxos. It wasn't listed as conquered, only as reminded. Earth didn't call it justice, they called it balance, and in that silence across distant systems, whispers took form, old warnings made new. Do not light the fire if you cannot survive the warmth, because humanity wasn't the storm, humanity was the weather. And weather doesn't argue, it arrives. The silence after Threxos is broken not by resistance, but by requests. Former enemies, abandoned colonies, and neutral worlds all come to Earth with one question: will you protect us? But Earth wasn't built to rule. Now it must decide if it will carry the stars or burn them. Full cinematic chapter. Content. The flood began quietly, a single shuttle, then two, then dozens. Each arrived in Earth's upper orbit, hovering beneath the watchful halo of the 700 ship. Armada, no weapons, no demands, just signals and silence. The first came from Velsar, a border world once loyal to the Council. Its population had revolted the moment Earth silenced Threxos. They sent a single message: we do not wish to fight. We wish to join. What oath must we take? They weren't alone. From the ruined skies of Kalian Prime, survivors of a collapsed trade empire sent ancient relics, tribal memory discs bearing Earth's old anthem. From the scattered fleets of the Valarn exiles came a whisper wrapped in AI code. We were cast out because we remembered you. Let us return. From a moon orbiting a dying sun, a child's voice broke through civilian bands. My grandfather said Earth was real. He said you'd come. Are you here now? In the Earth diplomatic nexus, Una Armitage stood before a council of her own making. 12. Minds from Earth, Kepler, Xerxes, and the colonies. All born in war, all born in silence. Admiral Kor spoke first. We won't be able to hold them all back. The refugees, the oaths, the ships, Elias Vaughan countered. We didn't light this fire to rule. But they're coming anyway, said Mara of Kepler, because where else can they go? Then came the envoy from Darnith, once a jewel of Council commerce, now ravaged by civil unrest and abandoned by the core systems. They arrived without fanfare. No titles, no guard, just a woman in blood-stained robes. She walked into the nexus, bowed, not deeply but willingly, and said, we were wrong. You offered peace. They offered order. We chose wrong. Now we ask, will you protect us without taking everything? Una's answer shook history. She didn't rise from her seat. She didn't look angry. She simply said, we don't want everything. We want everyone to remember what was taken and who let it happen. Across the galaxy, lines were redrawn, not with weapons, but with oaths. Earth refused to rule, but began granting protectorate status to systems who pledged memory above profit, sovereignty above order, and unity above fear. A new seal was minted, not an empire, not a federation, something else, a memory compact. The rules were simple. No AI slavery, no planetary blockades, no council taxation, all cultures preserved. If one world is attacked, all compact members respond. Within weeks, 37 systems signed. Within a month, 109. And the compact did not build its capital on Earth. It was built on Kepler 3, the world once left for dead. A reminder, the center of gravity is never where the stars expect it to be. The Council panicked. Marek fled to a neutral moon, never to be seen again. Zavar demanded an emergency summit. Thalos Terran declined to attend, and in the absence of unity, the Council fractured. But Earth's leaders knew something deeper. Una called a private meeting in the Forge Vault. Just 5 people and one projection, an image of the galaxy, half now shaded in compact blue, half still grey and watching. She spoke softly. We've become a mirror. They look at us and see what they could have been, or what they still fear they'll become. Elias asked, Are we ready to carry this? Mara replied, We've carried worse. Silence, betrayal, abandonment. Rencor smiled darkly. Let them come. They're not bending to us. They're bending to truth. But truth has weight, and not all systems bent. Some bled. On the edge of known space, the Nitari Compact, an elite remnant of Council enforcers, declared Earth a threat to stability. They sent 12 cruisers toward a compact-aligned colony, Dawnreach. Population, 40,000 mostly civilians, Keplerian engineers, reclaimed Earth settlers, and a single defense station. They weren't meant to survive. They didn't call Earth for help. They simply triggered protocol, Echo Wake. A beacon shot through FTL space like a scream made of light. Earth received it, and 13 seconds later, 15 ships vanished from orbit. Not Earth's, the Nitari. No weapons fired, no damage done, just gone. Folded into a black relay. No wreckage, no bodies. Just an audio recording returned to Nitari High Command. Una Armitage's voice. Your ships are safe. We relocated them to your own capital orbit. Tell your children we showed restraint. We won't do it again. After that day, no compact world was ever touched again, not because Earth threatened them, but because the galaxy now believed Earth doesn't need to conquer. It simply needs to exist. And far from any star, in the dark folds of space where old things stir, the drift colonies, the ones no one dared speak of, sent their first signal to Earth. We are not broken. We are waiting. Send us the fire. The forgotten colonies of the drift finally respond, but what Earth finds isn't weakness. It's evolution. Humanity didn't die in exile. It became something stronger, colder, and more terrifying than the Council ever imagined. Now Earth must decide, will it embrace its children or fear them? Full cinematic chapter. Content: for 87 years no signal escaped the drift. Not light, not sound, not hope. Council records marked it as lost. Earth marked it as sacred, because that's where they sent the unclaimed, the dissidents, the warborn, the ones who didn't fit the Council's version of a peaceful humanity. Not criminals, not monsters, just inconvenient. And now, the drift was awake. The signal came through 2 hours after the Compact's 130th member signed. No visuals, just data, encrypted, ancient. It bore one line: we survived the silence, now hear what it made us. Attached, a list of systems, 12, all unknown to Council archives, one word under each. Claimed, at Earth Command, Una Armitage stood in a secure chamber deep beneath the old Antarctic core. With her stood Admiral Rencor, Mara of Kepler, and the only man who had drift clearance, General Kyr Voss. He was quiet, always had been. Born in a zero-grav penal colony, raised in Europa's wreckage. Trained by ghost code tactics and orbital debris warfare, he looked at the signal and said only, "They're not sending a message, they're sending a summons." Earth answered. The ESV Abyss reached was deployed, crewed not by diplomats, but by ghosts, soldiers, listed MIA from past wars, but secretly recovered and sent to train for drift recon. The ship's captain was Lyra Tan, a woman whose face had never been recorded in public record. She had no past, only orders. They entered drift space through an uncharted black-fold corridor. Time blurred, physics bent. They emerged inside a nebula of shattered moons and rogue stars. No beacons, no gravity anchors, only silence. And then 12 ships decloaked. Not Earth ships, not Council vessels, but something else. Hybrids, angular, silent, armor fused with organic matrices, and in their center, a station shaped like a spear, plunged into a dead star. The beacon pulsed again. Welcome home. Inside, the air was thin, deliberate. Driftborn didn't breathe like Earthborn did. They breathed need. Nothing more. Captain Lyra stepped onto the platform. Waiting for her was a child. maybe 10. Eyes grey, voice like metal on snow. You sent us. Away! We came back, she replied. The child nodded. We are not angry. A pause. But we are not yours. Behind the child, hundreds emerged. Not soldiers, weapons wearing human faces, men and women raised in anti-gravity tombs. Cloned on asteroid belts, modified to adapt, to predict, to persist. They had built cities into the corpses of Council warships. They had formed societies based on threat assessment and silence intervals. They had no governments, only memory keepers. They spoke not in ranks, but in consequences. Earth wasn't here to claim them. Earth was here to witness them. At the summit between Earth's envoy and Driftborn leaders, Una appeared via neural projection. She asked only one question. Do you want to return? The Driftborn elder, an ageless woman named Sharanai, answered, We never left, we became what you couldn't. The Drift didn't sign the compact. They didn't need to. They simply marked their space with Earth's symbol burned into the bones of an asteroid belt. No ceremony, no anthem, just a warning. This place remembers what silence costs. And then they offered Earth something unexpected, a gift. The Skybreaker Codex, an ancient data core recovered from Council deep vaults before their exile. It detailed every covert operation used to fracture Earth's early expansion, every sabotage, every false treaty, every orchestrated disaster, and the names of every Council race involved, including Species Earth, still considered neutral. Una watched the decrypted contents. She said nothing, just added one word to the list of enemies. Accounted, a cross. The galaxy, whispers began. The Drift did not die. The Drift became fire. Earth's lost children don't ask for justice. They prepare for aftermath. But the Drift wasn't just a weapon. It was a culture, a human culture, born without songs, without planets, without history, only instinct and vengeance and memory. And now they wanted something, not war, not territory. One question. If Earth forgets again, who will remind them? Back on Earth, Elias Vaughn walked through the Hall of Oaths. Each planet that joined the compact etched its pledge into alloy plates. He stopped beside the new one. Drift doesn't swear. Drift remembers. That is enough. Meanwhile, in a decaying temple on Council Prime, Thalos Terren received the Skybreaker Codex. He read it in silence. When he was done, he wrote a single sentence on his personal scroll. Earth remembers what we paid them to forget. Then he burned the scroll. But not all Driftborn were content to hide. One stepped forward, a commander named Verix Kane. He addressed the compact directly. His voice echoed in 100 systems. We were cast out so you could be comfortable. Now, we stand beside the ones who never forgot us. You wanted peace. We want clarity. And if the stars demand blood again, we will give them fire shaped like memory. Earth did not silence him. They amplified him. Because Kane was no longer an exile. He was a chapter in Earth's long, bloody, righteous book. And that chapter was only beginning. For the first time in history, Earth does not strike first, but the galaxy strikes back on Earth's behalf. The compact launches its first retaliation against a world guilty of memory erasure and colonial genocide. This isn't revenge. This is correction. Full cinematic chapter. Content: the first target was chosen by Kepler, not Earth, because Earth refused to lead by blood. So Kepler chose. They chose Cairntal, a Council-aligned world that once lured Earth colonists with trade agreements, then betrayed them to the Grasny warlords. 10,000 were enslaved. 2,000 were never found. The Council ruled it unverified. Earth never forgot. Now, Kepler's voice echoed through the compact's core channel. Commander Mara stood before the assembly of memory. We were children when they took our people. They said it wasn't real. Now we write truth into stone. We move not as vengeance, but as verification. Every system voted. Unanimous cairn tile would be corrected. Operation codename Stonefall. Fleet composition 7 Earth Dreadnoughts 22 Keplerian assault carriers, drift-borne shadow ships 60, interceptor wings from compact allies. Mission goal seizure of orbital infrastructure and command archives. No civilian targets, no planetary bombardment, only the guilty. When the fleet arrived above Cairn Tal, no threats were issued. Just a message: you were seen. We are here to remember. The Council scrambled to respond, but they had no unity, no fleets ready, no chain of command intact, just protests. And behind those protests, fear. Because the galaxy now knew the compact didn't need permission to act, only memory. Cairn Tal's military responded aggressively. They launched every ship they had, 1,000 vessels, planetary defense arrays. They screamed into the void. Earth seeks conquest, but the compact didn't answer. They moved like a pulse through history. Drift-borne shadow ships disabled 400 targets without being seen. Keplerian gravlances shattered. The orbital cannons, Earth dreadnoughts, deployed memory pod drones, coded with footage of the original betrayals. Those pods rained onto the surface, not to destroy, to show truth. In every capital, on every screen, children saw it first. Their parents told them it was lies, but their grandmothers remembered. And they wept. When the Cairn Tal Prime Command tried to launch escape craft, they were denied access by their own people. The planetary net was seized by an uprising, not directed by the compact, not requested by Earth. It just happened, because truth once seen cannot be buried again. The compact fleet didn't stay. They extracted war criminals, archived evidence, disabled Council linked AI nodes and left. No occupation, no flags planted, only a message engraved into the orbital lattice, verified. Memory restored. The reaction was galactic. Systems once skeptical of Earth now scrambled to join. Neutral worlds deactivated their Council transponders. Old colonies reached out with codes thought lost. Even former enemies made contact. On Veitan, the last surviving Grasny warlord sent a personal message to Elias Vaughn. We fought your kind in caves. We called you fragile. Now we see you were waiting. We surrender. What terms will you offer? Elias replied. We don't want terms. We want names, the ones you sold us. Give us the truth. We'll handle the rest. Meanwhile, Earth's people watched in awe, not of conquest, but of conduct. Because humanity was doing what the Council never could, answering atrocity with clarity, correcting history with action. No medals were given, no leaders paraded, just a rising, and the world understood this is what it means to remember. Inside Earth Command, Una Armitage stood before a new map. Every compact world was now highlighted. In blue fire, it stretched from Sul to the Drift, from Kepler to Seraphis. She turned to Rencor. Where's left? He tapped a single unlit dot. The heart of the old Council, the prime vaults of Methar, still neutral, still watching, still hiding what Earth wanted most. The Council archive, where every lie was kept and every betrayal recorded. Mara of Kepler entered. They haven't spoken. Una nodded. They will. Elias Vaughn joined them. Do we go? Una stared at the unlit dot, then turned away. Not yet. Let them stew in their silence. Let them ask what we're waiting for. Mara grinned. And are we? Una whispered. No, we're watching who runs toward the dark and who still hides behind light. That night, across compact worlds, bonfires lit up the skies. Not for war, for memory. Children read stories of colonies reborn. Elders shared names of those lost and now found. And in the Drift, for the first time, laughter echoed through ship corridors. Because fire wasn't destruction anymore. It was language, and far across the stars. In an abandoned temple on Methar, Thalos Terren lit a single candle. He opened the Skybreaker Codex one final time and whispered, "So this is what becomes of the forgotten. They become the flame. and the flame writes new law. Earth no longer needs to strike. Now they demand the Council release the one thing that could tear the galaxy open, the sealed truth of the past. The Council's final sanctuary, the vaults of Methar, must answer, but what's buried there may be more dangerous than war. Full cinematic chapter content. The skies above Methar had always been quiet, the capital of history, the sanctuary of neutrality, the archive of the entire galactic record. It had survived 7 wars, seen 10 civilizations rise and fall, but it had never seen this. At 0600 Galactic Standard, a single transmission was received. From Earth, no warships, no fleets, no ultimatums, just a voice, Una Armitage. You buried our pain in your vaults. You silenced the truth for profit. Now the galaxy remembers. Your turn. Attached was a single command key. Confession Protocol OR-1, a protocol encoded into the oldest Council charter, one that forced the release of sealed memory archives if triggered by a 2/3 galactic majority. It had never been used, because it had never been possible until now. The compact held 82% of inhabited systems, more than enough. Inside the vaults of Methar, Keeper N-Tolar trembled. He was ancient, one of the original architects of the Council memory lattice. He watched as the lock seals disengaged, one by one. Vault Sigma unlocked Record 41C, Helios Massacre, Record 63G, Drift Expulsions, Record 19A, Kepler Disruption Protocol, Record 88E, Earth Isolation Directive. Each one glowed red, labeled Classified for Stability, now flashing Released for Memory. Across the galaxy, the records went live, in every compact world, in every system. Even Council loyalists could no longer deny it. The Council had sabotaged early Earth outposts, cut trade lines in secret, funded mercenary groups to destabilize non-compliant colonies, and worst of all, they had known Earth had saved the Varnith from extinction during the Helianic collapse, but erased it to maintain superiority. On Varnith Prime, elders dropped their ceremonial staves. Unwhispered, we called them beasts, but it was they who held our dead while we ran. It was they who rebuilt our cities, and we thanked them with silence. Riots broke out across Council loyalist worlds, not against Earth, against the Council. Temples were burned, old leaders ousted. Entire planets demanded to join the compact overnight, but Earth didn't cheer. They watched, because it wasn't about dominance. It was about validation. Truth wasn't a weapon now. It was justice, and the galaxy couldn't handle it. Back in Methar's vaults, Keeper N-Tolar recorded his final log. I have failed. We buried the truth not to protect the stars, but to protect our place above them. Now Earth has reminded us, memory is not dangerous. Forgetting is. At Earth Command, Una Armitage stared at the flood of new systems, requesting alignment. She didn't smile, she didn't celebrate, she simply turned to Elias Vorn. Now we know, he asked. Do we erase them? She shook her head. No, we become what they never did. We remember with mercy. But not all agreed. From the drift, Varix Kane sent a message. Direct, raw. You let them live, you let them keep their hands. They buried us, and you dig up their graves, just to forgive. Earth responded, no, we don't forgive, we record. And so it began. Earth launched the archive ship, Atlas I. Its mission, to carry the full confession protocol into every system, to install truth as a permanent structure in orbit, uneditable, unburnable, unbreakable. Each archive would house records of every betrayal, every loss, every name. Not to shame, to warn. One was deployed over Methar, another over Kerntal, a third over Vatan. In every system, children now learned history as it happened, not as the Council painted it. In the new compact capital on Kepler 3, a memorial was unveiled, not of war, of silence. A black stone pillar with no inscription, just a reflective surface, so anyone who looked would see only themselves. And remember, silence is what let it happen. The Mithari were the first former council race to join the compact. Thalos Terren spoke before the assembly. We governed the stars by hiding the past. Now Earth governs them by showing it. They did not ask for a throne, so we offer them a library, a sanctuary, and a fire that does not lie. The assembly agreed. Earth would not become an empire, but it would become something greater, the keeper of memory, and still. One final question remained. One last dot on the map still blinked red. One final betrayal not yet revealed. Record 0A locked. Deeper than Methar. Known only to a handful, it bore no title, just a warning, for Earth's eyes only. Una Armitage stood before it alone. She entered the override key and watched. The screen lit up and showed something she never expected. Not another betrayal, not a council scheme, but a message from old Earth, from before the blockades, a secret left by Earth's own founders. If you are reading this, then memory has survived war. Then Earth has endured exile. Then the stars listen again. We did not build you to win. We built you to remind them who we were. If peace is still possible, carry it. If peace is gone, carry truth. Either way, never let them forget our name. She stood in silence, then whispered back, we didn't. As the final rogue council. Species prepare one last desperate strike to erase the truth. Earth activates its final defense. Not a weapon, but a shield of remembrance. The war for memory ends here, not in domination, but in a decision that will define galactic history forever. Full cinematic chapter. Content. The stars were too quiet. Across the spiral arm, systems held their breath. Because after the confession, protocol, after the archive ships, after the rise of the compact, there was still one ember left, the Shaydari. The last loyalists, fanatics. They did not mourn the council's fall. They wanted it reversed, and to do that they would burn every archive, every compact ship, every voice that dared remember. The attack began on archive ship, Atlas IV, orbiting Darnith. A stealth fleet emerged from solar shadows. No warning, no message, just fire. They destroyed the archive in 13 seconds. 7 million files lost, but not the memory, because Earth had prepared for this. The backup transmission activated instantly. From Razorwell, from drift nodes, from Kepler's vault, from Methar itself, and across the sky appeared one phrase, repeated in 304 systems. You cannot burn memory, you only feed it. Earth did not retaliate with bombs, they retaliated with illumination. Every world aligned with the compact activated protocol Echo Flare. Cities lit their skies with reconstructed projections of every archive page lost. The past literally painted across the stars, visible from orbit, burned into public buildings, displayed in lights across canyons and oceans. You couldn't look up without seeing history, and the Shaydari panicked because they had never prepared for an enemy that made truth immortal. So they escalated. They targeted Kepler 3, the compact capital. With a sun ignition device, their fleet exited warp with one order, erase everything, but they never reached orbit because they were met, not by Earth, not by fleets, but by the united fire of memory itself. Kepler's Sky Shield array was activated, originally designed to deflect meteor strikes, but it had been upgraded by Keplerian engineers, drift-borne AI, Earth's old orbital scientists. The Sky Shield refracted the ignition pulse, not back at the fleet, but into the void, into darkness, where it became a warning to whatever might watch from beyond. And then came Earth's message, not live, not spoken, but embedded in every archive beacon across the galaxy, a final, irrevocable truth. You came to erase us. You called us primitive. You left us to starve. We endured silence. We raised fire. And now we are the record. If you strike again, you do not destroy us. You destroy your history. The Shaidari broke. Some fled, some surrendered. A few detonated their own ships, unable to exist in a galaxy they no longer controlled. But Earth didn't cheer. Earth recorded one final archive ship. Atlas Zero was launched. Destination, the edge of the galaxy. A memory seed to wait, to drift, to carry truth even if humanity fell again, because truth now had wings, and on Kepler the assembly gathered. Una Armitage stood before them all, no longer as Earth's voice, but as something more. She looked at the sky and spoke softly. We could have ruled. We could have burned every world that struck us. But we didn't, because we remember how that felt. She raised a hand. 1,000,000 lights appeared in orbit, not weapons, names. Every colony lost, every life taken, every betrayal survived. Then she said, "Let no one ever again call silence peace. Let no one call erasure justice. Let no one build power on forgetfulness. We are the flame now. We don't conquer, we remember." Across Earth, people stood still, not in shock, in silence, in reverence, in memory. Children in the drift learned history through songs sung in vacuum-sealed chambers. Keplerian engineers installed truth panels in every new ship. Mithari temples turned their prayer halls into echo vaults. And on Earth, a new monument rose, a mirror, towering, reflective, with no words. Because now the galaxy already knew. Earth does not ask to be feared. Earth asks to be remembered, and that is far more terrifying.